Do you want to hear about my day? It's very interesting. So I woke up a little bit later than usual. That is not 5 a.m., more around 6-ish. And then I immediately snapped into gear. I'm like, let's have a coffee. Let's list all the things that are hanging around in relation to the conference. And let's just knock them out as fast as we can. And so I spent probably 2 hours writing 17 emails. Ridiculous. All before 9 a.m., all around 7:30. And then slowly some of the responses started to come back. I mean, one of the things is to keep promoting the call for papers. And then I wrote to a committee and I said, should we extend the deadline by a couple of weeks just to increase submission quota? And they agreed, so we're going to do that. I have to talk to the organisation. I also flagged to the organisation that, I am doing further funding efforts, but in the event that that doesn't sort of come off, that we're going to have a conversation about what ELASA can back and how to process it. Because, also at the point of view of, I guess, school management and finance, applications for international visitors, visas, etc., all of that needs to start moving. And so these are the things that I've just been thinking, oh God, they're just lying in wait. The other thing is getting together a team of volunteers, because, as I said in the last video, I can't be indispensable. I've got to be able to delegate work. Anyway, I kind of zeroed down about 6-7 people, from student reps to postgrad students to also members of the Spanish and Latin American Studies Student Association. So I've suggested a meeting on Wednesday at 10 a.m. One person has got back to me, but it is Friday, and it's also a tight turnaround. If needs be, I can shift it, but I just want to build this team and set up the tasks that are ahead, so not everything is incumbent on me. I can leave clear guidelines and have that element figured in. And there are a range of tasks. We couldn't budget for a research assistant who might have been able to look after all these lines and workflows in elements of the logistics and planning of the conference. Some of that can be taken up by the school and people in the school, but certainly not everything. So, so many things to troubleshoot on and to keep communicating and connecting with our networks, some of which we're hopeful might be able to provide some funds. Early next week, some of that's going to be followed up because there were some positive signs from at least 2 clusters. One has already got back to me and said they have really minimal leftover funds, but they dedicate what's left over to this conference, but also help to advocate for someone from a particular centre that might have a bit more money or be disposed to grant it to us. So I'm doing all that I can, and as you can see, that's a lot of coordination for one person. But I just want to set the wheels in motion a whole lot more, and I also wrote to not the international keynote because we had a conversation with her already, but more local one to ask for, title, abstract, bio, maybe photo, because those things have to come together, and then we've got to start creating a website and promote through our different channels, comms, school, set up the registration page. There's a lot of stuff to do, and that's where some of the volunteer labour could step in, but also as we go ahead, continue to work on particular tasks. One thing that came up was the possibility of accompaniment for translation, interpreting, and we had some promising students in translation, and so I got the details of one of those students who might be able to be part of that. So that's actually made me feel more relieved because it feels less like everything's coming at me and more like, okay, let's develop a strategy. Let's do something about this rather than wait. And ideally, in the coming week, we'll be able to purchase um, the main international keynotes flights and work with her on her international travel requirements and visa and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's a lot, isn't it? And then I had a call back from my um, legal support contact around my criminal injury case, and we needed to go through a lot of stuff about why, over the years, and particularly as a young person, I wasn't able to file a police report. So we're looking for, I guess, potential weaknesses in the case. And that really made me go very deep as to the environments I was moving in, both familial and also institutional at the time, that meant that was kind of like either not considered to be an option or pushed to the side. And the way in which I self-regulated around it as well, and sort of took in the messages to say, this is the past, don't concentrate on these things and move on, build a life for yourself, etc., etc. But the impact undeniably was there. I only got a full-time job at the age of 37, 38. That's a major impact on someone's life. And even when I was on a better footing financially and in terms of my stability, including in the beginnings of a new relationship, really speaking, work became a way of distracting myself from the unresolved and unprocessed elements of my historic abuse experiences. And I folded in as well to the idea that I had to resolve it psychologically with my father and be there to assist him when he was dying. Why didn't I ever challenge him? Well, someone in the family said you should have gone right in there and asked him to say sorry. I'm like, this guy's in delirium, barely conscious. How's he going to even recognise what that means? I also talked about how I had initiated contact again after 15 years for my own purposes, but in a conditioned way, where my father, sorry, I'm trying to get my earring in, he could only have contact with me if he didn't try to challenge the accounts of abuse, which he largely respected. And so it wasn't just a total 100% opening up to the relationship. I still had difficulties with him, but I knew that he was getting sicker, and I also wanted to forestall my own kinds of ambivalences and even like intensities around his departure. But I never demanded that he said sorry, because what was the point? And then when he died, I felt like, yes, that just reinforced the idea that you close the door and you just go move on with your life. But I was kind of psychologically fooling myself, because in reality I was just distracting myself from it and trying to push it away and compartmentalize, and the many things that survivors do over the years, until some of it came crashing back, especially in moments of different kinds of crises and flashbacks, recall, what else? Constant problems with sleeping, and also nightmares. Some of those continued right up until very recently, when I was put on clonidine for the nightmares, and certainly where 2022 I was diagnosed with PTSD, actually the complex one with the C in the front. A lot of things brought that to the fore, but effectively a lot of time I just thought I was a problem. Yeah, I was the one that just had mental health issues. They weren't created by situations of both abandonment and sort of marginalization or normalization of things as well in the family environment. So there was so much to talk about, and I'm sorry if this is triggering for anyone out there, but afterwards it was like 3:30. We talked for like up to an hour and 10 minutes on the phone. I just was so hungry, and I went out and got a banh mi as a form of therapy. So there you have it. Such a mixture of a day, and this is how I navigate, I guess. It's not necessarily a typical day, but certainly all of the processes and emails of the first part of the day were just like, I've got to get this off the slate. I've just got to move things so I can get to a point where I can start to kind of down regulate obviously, the way in which I sort of become hyper or high functioning, which is always accompanied by anxiety, but also look after myself. That's essential. That's my last message, actually, at the end of all this relating of things today. So, anyway, take care, everyone.